Good morning, students. In the last class, we discussed with or in the series of two classes, we discussed with the law of agency. Who is an agent, who is a principal, and what is the law of agency. And after that, we see what are the essential elements of a valid agency or agent, or who is an agent or who is a principal. These are the two parties with regard to this agent or this agency. Two parties with regard to an agency is, one is the agent, another one is the principal. Then, so there are some, even each and every contract, there is some essential elements also. So agency also having essential elements, isn't it? Then we see how an agency is to be created. Express or implied agreement. Then in that way, then it is by operation of law, wasn't it? And also by ratification. In this way, we are creating an agency, isn't it? Then after that, we see what are the classification with regard to an agent. So based on the authoritarian structure, three classifications are there. That is the special agent, the general agent, and the unified agent, isn't it? And the next is, so it is not unified, it is universal agent. And then based on that, on the basis of the nature of the work conducted, that is the mercantile or commercial agents and non-mercantile agents. So mercantile agents are, the factors are there, the auctioneers are there, the brokers are there, then commission agents are there, then Delcadre agents are there, and bankers are there. And while those who are having a dealing in the sense means maybe to consign a goods for that purpose, to arrange something in order to consign that goods or to sell the goods or to buy the goods or to arrange all these things. These are the activities to be conducted by a mercantile agents or the commercial agent. And the classifications are, the factor is there, the broker is there, then the commission agents are there, then auctioneers are there, then Delcadre agents are there, and also bankers are there. So all these cases, except the banker, there will be some commission to such agents. These are called, in several cases, auctioneer, there is also a commission, brokerage is the commission agents are also there. Then universal, sorry, this one, Delcadre commission is there in case of a Delcadre agent. So that is the mercantile agents. Like the same, those which are not dealing with this, means those who are not a mercantile agent is a non-mercantile agent. So these are the classification with regard to which one? This agents. So on the basis of the authority, general, special, and universal agent. While universal agent is, it is limited by authority. Sorry, unlimited by authority. Opposite term. It is unlimited by authority. It is a case of universal agent. Then it is a general agent, almost all the activities to be undertaken. And in case of a special agent, only for a specific purpose that is to be constituted. And after the specific purpose is over, it must be dispersed of. The agent is no more, isn't it? Adana, which one? General agent, special agent, universal agent. Then on the basis of a non-mercantile as well as a mercantile agent, this is based on the which one? Nature of the work. The other one is the authoritarian aspect. So the nature of the work, the factory is there, the auctioneer is there, the broker is there, the Delcadre agent is there, commission agents are there, and also the bankers are there. While those opposite to mercantile agents, that is non-mercantile agents, till this we see in the previous classes. So today we are going to see the balance one. So what is the scope and extent of the agent's authority? How much the authority of the agents is to be extended, or what is the authority with regard to each and every agent? That we are going to see today. So the scope and extent of agent's authority. Adhikaram edu alavil vareyunda or agent inde. So the expression authority of an agent means his capacity to bind the principal. So his capacity, or he is having the right to do that one. Okay, based on the principal aspect, he is having the right or the authority to do such aspect. So that is the authority of an agent codes to. If the agent acts within the scope of his authority, it will be binding on the principal. This raises the issue of what is deciding the authority of the agent. So authority of the agent to bind the principal may be of the following types. One is actual or real authority. Actual or real authority. So what is that? It is the authority conferred on him by the principal. It may be expressed or implied by the acts or by the conduct of the parties, or by express means orally or written. ഇത് രണ്ട് രീതിയിലും ആകാം. Express or implied authorities are there. So it is the authority conferred on him by the principal. It may be express or implied. An authority is said to be expressed when it is given by the words spoken or written. An authority is said to be implied when it is to be inferred from the circumstances of the case and the things spoken or written or the ordinary course of dealing. ഒന്നെങ്കിൽ ഇടപാടുകളിൽ കൂടി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വാക്കാൽ അല്ലെ പ്രവൃത്തിയിൽ ഏത് രീതി വേണേലും the authority will be vested with the agent. So it may be actual or real authority. That is this. So if it is the authority conferred on him by the principal, and it may be expressed or implied, and an authority is said to be expressed when it is given by the words spoken or written. An authority is said to be implied when it is to be inferred from the circumstances. സാഹചര്യങ്ങൾക്കനുസരിച്ച് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ it is the case with the implied authority, while express authority means what? So actual or real authority may be express or implied. So express authority means what? Those who are in written or oral way. Implied authority means based on the circumstance of the case, if the party performs, it is a case of which one? Implied authority. For example, A owns a shop in Zerampur, living himself in Calcutta and visiting the shop occasionally. The shop is managed by B and he is in the habit of ordering goods from C in the name of A for the purpose of the shop and of paying for them out of A's funds with A's knowledge. B has the implied authority from A to order the goods from C in the name of A for the purpose of the shop. അപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത് A owns a shop in Serampur but living in Calcutta. കൊൽക്കത്തയിൽ താമസിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് സെറംപൂർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ സ്ഥലത്ത് എയ്ക്ക് ഒരു ഷോപ്പ് ഉണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് വിസിറ്റിംഗ് ദ ഷോപ്പ് ഒക്കേഷണലി, വല്ലപ്പോഴും എന്ത് വരുന്നു? Very rarely he is visiting. The shop is to be managed by another person B, and he is in the habit of ordering the goods from C in the name of A for the purpose of the shop. So ഷോപ്പിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് എയുടെ പേരിൽ സിന്ന് ഗുഡ്സ് ഓർഡർ ചെയ്ത് വരുത്തിക്കാറുണ്ട് ആര്? ബി. സോ and of paying them out of A's fund. എയുടെ പൈസ ആണ് വിത്ത് A's knowledge. അപ്പൊ എയ്ക്ക് ഇത് അറിയുകയും ചെയ്യാം. So there should be some authority vested with the B, that is express as well as implied, as the case may be, or it is orally or in a written way. So B has an implied authority from A, that is based on the performance of this one with A's knowledge, with A's funds. He is ordering goods from C on behalf of A for the shop. So there is an implied authority because based on the circumstances to order the goods from C in the name of A for the purpose of the shop. So that is the actual or real authority. It may be expressed or implied by the word spoken or written, or as the case may be, circumstances of the case may be. Clear, students? So that is express or implied authority, that is the same as actual or real authority. This is the actual or real authority that is to be vested with the agent. Isn't it? അതിനൊരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ ആണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. A owns a shop in Zerampur but living in Calcutta, but occasionally he visits the shop. On behalf of A, one person B is joined there as an employee, isn't it? Shop is managed by B and he is in the habit of ordering the goods from C in the name of A for the purpose of the shop and paying them out of A's funds with the A's knowledge. എയുടെ അറിവോടെ എയുടെ ഫണ്ട് എടുത്ത് he is taking goods ordering the goods from C for the shop, isn't it? In the name of A. So therefore, B is having an implied authority, means as the circumstances of the case may be, he is ordering the goods with A's knowledge on behalf of the shop and with the A's fund. So that is the case, actual or real authority. Another one is ostensible or apparent authority. Apparent authority. അധികാരത്തിന്റെ കാര്യമാണ് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത്. Ostensible or apparent authority. It is the authority of an agent which appears to others. When a person is appointed as an agent for a particular business, persons dealing with him can presume that he has the authority to do all such acts as are necessary or incidental to such business. Such an authority is called ostensible of an authority of an agent. Means അത് ചെയ്തിരിക്കണം എന്നാലേ അത് ബിസിനസിന്റെ സക്സസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഇതാകുള്ളൂ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഇതാണ് മനോഭാവമാണ്. സോ when a person is appointed as an agent for a particular business, person dealing with him, അയാളുമായിട്ട് ഡീൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാർ can presume that, means thinking that he has the authority to do all such acts. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അധികാരമുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളതാണ് മറ്റുള്ളവര് അയാളുമായിട്ട് ഡീൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന എല്ലാവരും ചിന്തിക്കുന്നത്. So presumes that he has the authority to do all such acts as are necessary or incidental to do such business. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ബിസിനസ്സിന് അത് നിലവിൽ ആവശ്യമാണ് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലാണ് ഈ ഒരു വ്യക്തിയുമായിട്ട് ഡീൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാര് തിങ്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. Such an authority is called an ostensible authority, and if the act of an agent is in excess of his actual authority but is within the scope of his ostensible, the principal will be bound by the act of the agent. So what is that? If the act of an agent is in excess of his actual, യഥാർത്ഥ അധികാരത്തെക്കാട്ടിലും കൂടുതൽ ചെലവഴിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ but is within the scope of his, അത് ചെയ്തിരിക്കണം എന്നുള്ള ഒരു തോന്നൽ ഉണ്ടാവുകയാണ്. In such a case, the principal will be bound by the act of such an agent. Principal need to obey, will be bound, liable to accept such an agent. അതാണ് ostensible or apparent authority. So it is the authority of an agent that appears to others. അതാണ് ostensible or apparent authority. When a person is appointed as an agent for a particular business, ഒരു particular businessന് ഒരു agent ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, persons dealing with him can presume that he has the authority to do such an act that is ostensible or necessary, ആവശ്യമാണ്. In order to do such a business, such an act is enough or important or incidental, okay, to such a business. Such an authority is called the ostensible authority of an agent. If the act of an agent is in excess of his actual authority but within the scope of the ostensible authority, in such a case the principal will be bound by the act of the agent. Then the third is agent's authority in an emergency situation. So in an emergency situation, ആവശ്യം വരുമ്പോൾ എമർജൻസി ആകുന്ന കേസിൽ, okay. So section 189 provides that an agent has the authority in an emergency to do all such acts for the purpose of protecting his principal from loss as would be done by a person of ordinary prudence in his own case under similar circumstances. So what is that? Emergency situation വരുമ്പോൾ പ്രിൻസിപ്പലിനെ രക്ഷിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് he is doing his authority. That is the case. So agent's authority in an emergency. അതാണ് section 189 provides that an agent has an authority in an emergency to do all such acts for the purpose of protecting his principal from loss as would be done by a person of ordinary prudence in his own case under similar circumstances. So these are the cases with regard to authority vested with an agent. One is actual or real authority, where it should be expressed, means what is the through orally or written, or implied means based on the circumstances of the case maybe. Then ostensible or apparent authority in the sense means person dealing with such an authority can presume that he has the authority to do all such acts that is necessary or incidental to do or for the success of the business. This is important or necessary for that one, isn't it? അതിനെയാണ് ostensible or apparent authority എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. And third one is In case of emergency situation, in order to save the life of the principal, or to make good the loss of the principal, or to compensate, or to damage, or to make in order to reduce the loss of the principal, in such a case, he acts as an agent at the emergency situation. So he is using his authority to save the principal's life. That's the third one, agent's authority in an emergency. So these are the three things with regard to which one agent's authority is vested. One is actual or real authority, another one is ostensible or apparent authority, and the third one is in case of emergency situation. So the next case is principal's liability for the acts of agent. This is agent's authority. And what is the principal's liability for such an act of the agent? So we will check it that. How far the principal is liable to the third party for the contracts entered into by an agent depends also upon how the principal is presented to the third parties by the agent. How the principal is to be facing the third party. Isn't it? Principal is presented to the third party by an agent. Like the same, third party, the principal is liable to the third party. So how far this occurs? There are three possibilities in this regard. That is, one is, sometimes the agent may disclose the existence and the name of the principal to the third party with whom he is entering into. In such a case, in such situation, principal can be termed as a named principal because his existence is showing by the agent to the third party. The name also should be shown by the agent to the third party. Whose name? The principal's name. That's named principal in the So sometimes the agent may disclose the existence and name of the principal to the third party with whom he is entering into the contract. In such situation, the principal can be termed as a named principal. Second, sometimes the existence of the principal may be disclosed, but not the name. ആദ്യത്തെ കേസിൽ പേര് വെളിപ്പെടുത്തുകയും അയാളുടെ എവിടെയാണ് താമസം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്താണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള his know-how or his his information, that also to be disclosed by the agent to the third party. That is the named principal. Second case, existence is disclosed but the name not. So that is unnamed principal. And third is undisclosed principal where both are not disclosed. അപ്പോൾ മൂന്ന് കേസാണ് ഓർക്കേണ്ടത്. ഒന്ന് named principal, ഒന്ന് unnamed principal, പിന്നെ undisclosed principal. അപ്പോൾ when the existence and the name of the principal is disclosed by the agent to the third party, it is called a named principal. Then, if the existence is disclosed but not the name, it is unnamed principal. And the third one, both the existence and the name not at all disclosed by the agent to the third party, it is called the undisclosed principal. Undisclosed principal. Then, ഈ മൂന്ന് കേസാണ് liability of a principal in case it is showing to the third party. Then, agent acting for a named principal. ഇനി അടുത്ത പോർഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു named principal എന്താണ്? Both the existence and the name is to be shown by the agent to the third party. It is called a named principal. How an agent is acting with a named principal or acting for a named principal. The position of a named principal for the acts of the named principal can be discussed under the following heads. When the agent acts within the scope of its authority, agent is acting within the scope of the authority vested with him. ആ ഏജന്റിന്റെ അധികാര പരിധിയിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് പുള്ളി എങ്ങനെയാണ് he is acting with the named principal. അപ്പൊ named principal എന്താണെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കിക്കോണം. That is disclosing the existence and name by an agent of the principal to the third party, that is named principal. ഇനി if an agent is acting for a named principal, then it should be in one case when the agent acts within the scope of his authority. അയാളുടെ അധികാരപരിധിയിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട്, ഇനി വേറൊന്നെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അയാളുടെ അധികാരപരിധി വിട്ടുകൊണ്ട് എങ്ങനെയാണ് പെരുമാറുന്നത്. So when the agent acts within the scope of his authority, when such an act is done by an agent within the scope of the authority, his acts are binding on the principal. So it is along with the principal's duty. to check that it is occurring or not. So that is the agent acted within his authority, within the scope of authority. He is doing the thing. Then in such a case, it can be discussed under it can be his acts are binding on the principle. Second is when the agent exceeds his authority. When the agent exceeds his authority, the first question is whether the act is within the scope of the authority and the act outside his scope are separable. It should be separated or not. അയാളുടെ അധികാരപരിധിയിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ടാണോ അതോ അല്ലയോ എന്നുള്ള കേസാണ് നോക്കുന്നത്. അങ്ങനെയെങ്കിൽ if it is separable, the principal is bound by that part of the work which is within his authority and he is not bound by the act outside the scope of his authority. So separable ആണെങ്കിൽ, അതായത് അധികാരപരിധിയിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ടും അധികാരപരിധിയിൽ അല്ലാതെ എക്സീഡിങ് ആയിട്ടുമാണോ ചെയ്യുന്നത് നോക്കുക. അങ്ങനെയെങ്കിൽ അത് സെപ്പറബിൾ ആണെങ്കിൽ പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ ഈസ് ബൗണ്ട് ബൈ ദാറ്റ് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദ വർക്ക് which is within the authority. അയാളുടെ അതോറിറ്റേറിയൻ നേച്ചറിലെ സ്കോപ്പില് നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് വേറെ പരിഗണന കൊടുക്കുക. ആൻഡ് ഹി ഈസ് നോട്ട് ബൗണ്ട് ബൈ ദ ആക്ട് ഔട്ട്സൈഡ് ദ സ്കോപ്പ് ഓഫ് ഹിസ് അതോറിറ്റി. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ സെക്കൻഡ് കേസ്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് if the agent exceeds his authority within the limit. അയാളുടെ അധികാരപരിധിയിൽ വിട്ട് അയാൾ പെരുമാറുകയാണെങ്കിൽ then the principal is giving importance or bound by that part of the work which is within his authority and he is not bound by the act outside the scope of the authority. If the act is not separable, separated ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ, the principal may repudiate the whole transaction, means cancel the whole transaction. For example, P authorizes A to buy 10 sheep for him. 10 ആടുകളെ മേടിക്കാനായിട്ട് P എന്ത് ചെയ്തു? Authorize A to buy 10 sheep. A buy 10 sheep and 20 lambs for one sum of 6,000. 10 ആടുകളെയും, അതായത് ചെമ്മരിയാടിന്റെയാണ് കാര്യം, ഷീപ്സ് അല്ലെ ഗോട്ട് എന്നാണല്ലോ പറയുന്നത്. സോ 10 sheep and 20 lambs, കുട്ടികളെയും, okay, for one sum of 6,000. P may repudiate the whole transaction because only P is authorizing A to purchase 10 sheep. Instead of 10 sheep, he purchased 20 lambs also. It is exceeding his authority, isn't it? The agent is exceeding within his authority, the authoritarian limit, because P is authorizing only to purchase 10 sheep. Instead, 10 sheep are purchased, 20 lambs also purchased. It is against the contract, or it is, what is that? Exceeding his authority. In such a case, the P may can, which one? Repudiate or cancel such a transaction. So that is the second case when the agent exceeds his authority. Agent acting for the named principle, where when the agent acts within the scope of his authority, it is then such an act is binding on the principle. While the agent exceeds his authority, he can repudiate the entire transaction itself. Clear? And then C, when principal bound by notice given to an agent. The principal is bound by a notice given to or information obtained by the agent in the course of the business of the principal. In such a case, he is bound by the admissions made by the agent. So, principal bound by a notice given to an agent. The agent in a notice he should do such an act. So, the principal is bound by the notice given to or the information obtained by the agent in the course of the business of the principal, and in such a case, he is bound by the admissions made by the agent. He is liable to do such an act if the agent is doing in that way. Adana C, point number C. Then, principal is bound by estoppel. A principal is liable where he had by words or contact induced a belief in the contracting party that the act of the agent was within the scope of his authority. So, how it is to be? This principle is bound by estoppel, means he is liable where he had by words or contact, pravartiyo alle vaakalo, induced a belief, or vishwasam avade varigana. Okay, belief in the contracting party. The third party is telling that this agent is doing within his authority. So, this is to be heard by the principal, isn't it? or the conduct is to be shown by the principal, so that the agent was the act of the agent was within the scope of his authority, and the principal is bound by estoppel. Means nothing he can say, he need to be liable to do such an act. That is, the principal is bound by estoppel. Then principal liable for misrepresentation or fraud by an agent. The principal is liable for the misrepresentations made or the frauds committed by an agent in the course of his business for the principal. പ്രിൻസിപ്പലിന് വേണ്ടി ഒരു മിസ്റെപ്രസെന്റേഷൻ അല്ലെ ഒരു വഞ്ചന, ചതിവ് ഒക്കെ ആര് നടത്തുകയാണ്? ഏജന്റ് നടത്തുകയാണെങ്കിൽ the principal, nothing can do, he is liable only, because utmost good faith that agent is recruited, isn't it? So in such a case, the principal is liable for such an act also from the agent. So that is the point number E. Then these are the topic with regard to the agent acting for a named principal. So what is a named principal? The existence and the name of the principal is to be disclosed by the agent to a third party, that is a named principal. And in such a case, the agent acting for a named principal, five points are there, sub points. That is, when the agent acts within the scope of his authority, exceeding the scope of his authority, then principal bound by a notice given to the agent, principal is bound by an estoppel, and principal is liable for the misrepresentation of the fraud act by fraudulent activities by an agent. അപ്പോൾ ഇത്രയാണ് ഓർക്കേണ്ടത്. അണ്ടർ ദി ഏജന്റ് ഹു ഈസ് ആക്ടിംഗ് ഫോർ എ നെയിംഡ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ, ഒരു എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസും പേരും നിലനിൽപ്പും പേരും ഡിസ്ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്ത ഒരു പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ, ആ കേസിലെ ഏജന്റ് എങ്ങനെ ആക്ട് ചെയ്യും? അത് ഈ കേസുകളിലാണ്. അതായത് when the agent acts within the scope of the authority, exceeding the scope of the authority, a notice is given to the agent, isn't it? Given to the agent, then it should be by estoppel and also liable for the misrepresentation or the fraudulent activities by an agent. So clear? This is the case with regard to agent acting for a named principal. In continuation with that, so named principal we see. Ini agent acting for a named principal. Now it is for an unnamed principal, where what is that existence is to be disclosed but the name is not disclosed. So when an agent discloses the fact that he is an agent and enters into a contract, the contract binds the principal. If the agent declines to disclose the identity of the principal, he will become personally liable on the contract, because even though he is not disclosing the name and the existence or the existence itself, the agent will become personally liable for such an act on the contract. So that is agent acting for an unnamed principal, where agent discloses the fact that he is an agent and enters into a contract, then the contract must be binding with the principal. So that is the second case, agent acting for an unnamed principal. So the second, unnamed principal, where disclosing the existence but not the name. And third, both the things not disclosed. So agent acting for an undisclosed principal, where the agent does not disclose the existence of the principal, he is personally liable for the contract. So that is, he is personally liable for the contract itself, because he is not at all disclosing what things, the existence and the name of the principal. Position of the parties to a contract are discussed below. The position of the principal and the position of the agent, and also the position of the third party. When an undisclosed principal is subsequently discovered, or if he intervenes in the sense means if he introduced or includes in that contract, the other contracting party may either sue the principal or the agent or both, because what is not there, disclosing of the name and the existence is not there. So in case of a position of the principal, in such a case, the principal may also intervene and demand the performance from the other contracting party. But in such a case, he must allow the third party the benefit of all the payments made by the third party to the agent. ഏജന്റുമായിട്ട് തേർഡ് പാർട്ടി നടത്തിയിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ പേയ്മെന്റ്സും ഡിസ്ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് പ്രിൻസിപ്പലിന് പറയാം. So that is the position of the principal. So once again, agent acting for an undisclosed principal, where how this thing, and the agent does not disclose the existence and the name, he is personally liable for such a thing. Contract personally liable. then the position of the principal when an undisclosed principal is subsequently discovered, or if he intervenes, the other contracting party may either sue the principal or the agent of the both, and the principal may also intervene and demand the performance from the other contracting party. But in such a case, he must allow the third party the benefits of all the payments made by the third party to the agent. So that is the case. He can sue against the third party as well as the agent in order to get what is that the benefits intervene or benefits intervene in this. So that is the position of the principal, that position of an agent. As between the principal and the agent has all the rights of an agent as against the principal. But as regards the third party, he is personally liable on the contract. So the position of a principal, the position of the agent, and also the position of the third party. So the position of an agent in case of an undisclosed principal is there. The agent acting for an undisclosed principal. As between the principal and the agent has all the rights of an agent as against the principal. But as regards the third party, he is personally liable on the contract, and he may sue the third party. He may sue, and the third party also can sue against the agent also. So both the parties can sue against each other. For the case undisclosed principal, the principal is not at all disclosed, the existence and the name. So that is the position of an agent. And for the position of a third party has got a choice. He can sue either the principal or the agent or both the cases. That is the first case. In case of a position of the third party, he has got the choice. He can sue either the principal or the agent or both. And inside another case, if the principal discloses himself before the contract is completed, disclose that he is a principal to that contract, then the other contracting party may refuse to fulfill the contract if he can show that if he had known who the principal was or that the agent was not the principal, he would not have entered into the contract. So in case a third party, if the principal discloses himself before the contract is completed, contract complete ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് മുമ്പേ the principal is disclosing that he is the principal, then the other party means the third party, may refuse to fulfill the contract. Refuse to means he is not at all liable to, or he is not at all ready to do his duty, isn't it? So refuse to fulfill the contract if he can show that he had known who the principal was. And principal, because the principal is disclosing that he is the principal before the contract. So if he had known who the principal was, or the agent was not that, or that the agent was not the principal, then he would not have entered into the contract. He may not interested in that contract. That is the second case. And the third party can claim a right of set off against the agent also. Where the principal requires the performance of the contract, he can only obtain such a performance as is subject to the rights and obligations subsisting between the agent and the other party to the contract. So the third party can claim a right of set off against the agent. He can claim what? A right of set off, compensation against the agent. When the principal requires the performance of the contract, principal's duty is to perform the contract. He can only obtain such a performance as that is subject to the rights and obligations subsisting between the agent and the other party to the contract. So that is the case with the third one. In case of a undisclosed principal, what are the position of the principal, what are the position of the agent, and what are the position of the third party. So today we see what are things. The agent's authority vested, how much it is the actual or the real authority, the ostensible or the apparent authority, and the agent's authority in an emergency cases. And also the principal's liability for the acts of the agent in case named principal is there, where he can disclose, the agent can disclose the principal's existence and name, that is the named principal, and his existence is disclosed but the name is noted, so that is the unnamed principal, and both the existence and the name, that is to be not to be disclosed by the agent, that is the undisclosed principal. In case if an agent is act for a named principal, what are the things with regard to? So if the agent in acting in such a way that the agent acts within the authority or exceeding the authority also, and by a notice to the agent, also by estoppel, and also if the agent is doing a fraudulent activity or a misrepresentative act, then in such a case he can cancel the entire contract itself. So entire agency contract itself. So that is the case with regard to agent for the name or for a named principal. Then agent acting for an unnamed principal, where agent declines to disclose the authority or the identity of the principal, he will become personally liable for such a contract. Then we see agent acting for an undisclosed principal, where what is the position with the principal in that case, what is the position with the agent in that case, and what is the position with the third party in that case. These things we see today. So please have a look at today's class and please confirm that you people see the videos and clear your doubts through WhatsApp, call, as well as the message like that. So thank you for the day.